Welcome to Norwood Digest. I'm your host, Jack McCarthy, and we're here with NCM's News Magazine show. We've got a great show coming up. We've got a construction update, and we also have something that's been in the news a lot here, and it's the stormwater infrastructure issues that the town of Norwood has. And we have people from well, I'll ask them what the committee's name is in a second, but we have Selectman Bob Donnelly and FinCom Alan Slater. So gentlemen, welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
And so let's just start with, what are the stormwater issues that we're really facing right now?
Well, people have seen, in the news, what some of the issues have been. You had flooding. You had a major flooding issue in Upland Road a few weeks ago when somebody had to be rescued by a member of the fire department. I mean, it's really very simple, Jack. When you're looking at a stormwater system, an old system, you can't put 10 gallons of water into a pipe that's designed to take 5 gallons. I mean, it's really very, very simple, very, very basic. The system was designed years ago. It was a good design, but the fact is, Norwood has expanded. You got additional flow going into the system. You have more, impervious surface than we used to have in the good old days.
Yeah, for people who don't know, tell them what impervious surface means.
Impervious surface are roadways, or sidewalks, or driveways, or your patios, those types of
your
things.
Parking lots.
Right, parking lots. And instead of the rainwater infiltrating into the ground, it goes on the roof into your downspout, flows down your driveway onto the street and into a catch basin. And it's just a fact of life. It's something which isn't a problem solely in Norwood, but because of some of the additional development we've had over the years and the aging of the system, we continue to have problems.
Okay, so somebody's decided, I think, how to fix all this, and that's not the role of your committee, as I understand it.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, and the role of our committee is to come up, is to look at some of the different options for financing a stormwater system, because unfortunately, it takes money to upgrade the system. And it isn't a problem, Jack, of somebody not doing something or doing something wrong. It's at the point where something has to be done. I mean, as a civil engineer, I looked at it both ways. Do we have to do something, first of all? Because if I wasn't convinced something had to be done, I wouldn't be on the committee to come up with a plan to finance it, because, I'm a member of the FinCom, but I'm also a taxpayer, and something clearly had to be done.
So let me play devil's advocate a little.
Yep.
So you talked about the Upland Woods thing, and that was very scary, especially for that individual that was trapped in their car. Can that be traced to all the construction that they're doing up there, like at, they built those 2 apartment complexes, they're doing more construction up there. Is that what causes that, or that's part of it?
Well, it's certainly part of it, Jack. I mean, again, you have more impervious area. That clearly contributes something to the flow, but it's a fact that you have an old system. It was built years ago based on a certain area as well as a certain design storm. You never design a storm system for the 500-year storm. You just have a pipe that's be so big it wouldn't even be able to fit in the roadway. So you design it for a certain design storm. And the system served us well for a number of years, but with additional areas being tied in, as well as we get more intense storms. A 25-year storm of days gone by is now a 10-year storm.
Right. That's good. That's a very good point.
And it's just an accumulation of factors.
Yeah. Okay. So go ahead, Bob.
And just to reiterate some of those points, yes, climate change is certainly an impact too. We have more rain, particularly in the Northeast, so that's a contributing factor. So the more rain we have, a system that can't, from a capacity standpoint, cannot move the water quickly enough through the system, that's infrastructure. We saw that, and this is an old problem in many ways. We can go back to 1998 when we lost our public safety building on Manhattan Street. The building flooded out completely, and certainly there was an investment the town needed to make to rebuild that facility, but we know that we don't want our public safety building being flooded out. it's important that emergency response can happen. So the more the rain that we get in a system that doesn't have the capacity to handle that anymore means more problems, more houses are flooding, more roads are flooding. You have the difficulties like at Upland Road, which probably does connect in that there are some, I think that's a state road, and I think they have the responsibility of making sure that the drains up there are cleaned and maintained correctly, and that's maybe a contributing factor to that incident. But all these things are coming together, and now is a time, and we've known this for 20 years. There's a variety of solutions that were proposed in the early 2000s under the initial engineering Meadowbrook study that was done. And we have incrementally done some of that work, but the majority of it has not been done. And so the solutions of 20 years ago are almost remarkably the same as they are today, but we just haven't made that investment.
Okay. So this committee was formed, and so tell us about what you guys have been doing.
I'll start because I'm the newest member.
And what's the name of the committee?
It is the Ad Hoc Stormwater Utility Committee. Alan and I are on it. It is chaired by Jerry Hopcroft, also an engineer. Heather Audit, a Norwood resident, who also is an engineer. I'm the only non-engineer in the group, so I'm at a disadvantage, I guess. We're supported by Mark Ryan from an engineering standpoint, Holly Jones, who's from community planning with a good background in conservation, and Mike Rosa supports us. The committee's charge is to get an idea of what the charge is in terms of financing this work, and what are the best ways of taking the engineering solutions that Mark Ryan's team has developed. How do we fund them? And so Alan can speak to that a little more specifically, but we looked at the various ways that you can fund these very large projects, which over the course of the next 10 years probably total in the vicinity of $40 million. So that is a dollar amount and a project investment that is pretty daunting. And there are some constraints in our operating budget to be able to fund those without causing certainly a big impact to our other services and operations that depend upon the town to support as well. So the committee has met for a better part of a year and a half. We have been supported by information from Mark's team, but we also have brought in consultants to give us information on best practices for how other communities do that. We've taken that work and we're trying to develop it into a suggested approach for the Board of Selectmen and town meeting to consider.
Okay. And so where are you getting the $40 million, Alan?
That's a good question, Jack. We looked at a number of different options. You could fund it the way we typically funded capital projects over the years. You simply, town meeting votes it, you put it in the town budget. Simplest method. The problem is every dollar you put into additional debt is a dollar less for the town government and town and for the school system. With the amount of money we're talking about, that would be an unacceptable option. You just take too many resources from the other areas of government. We looked at the possibility of doing overrides, like we did for the school system. The problem is that there are a number of projects you have to do over the years. You continually have to go for overrides, and it's a system that has been shown just not to work, in other areas. So we have a consultant from CDM Smith, somebody who I've known for well over 30 years. I've dealt with him in some of the projects I was involved with over the years.
Camp Dressy and what is that?
Camp Dresser McKee Smith.
Okay.
They merged with another firm probably about 10 years ago. They wanted to get more transportation expertise, but be that as it may. And they gave us some information about what's being done nationally. What seems to be the trend on a national basis? And the trend on a national basis is to go with what's referred to as an enterprise fund. And it's very similar, I think, as Bob noted, to what we do with water and we do with an electric. It's a separate entity. It's funded, through rates, just like water and just through electric. You have a lot of flexibility in whether you want to include not just capital, but O&M. Right now, it looks as if we may be aiming more towards capital, but that's to be, determined. And it gives you flexibility also in how you want to assess both the residents as well as some of the commercial establishments. It seemed to be a good system. We looked at it, the committee said it was a good idea, and that's the recommendation which we made to the selectmen.
And so, see if I got what you just said right, because this is not, this is complex for me, so. So can you do two different rates, like the tax rate? Is that, because
Yeah,
you talked about business and you talked about residents.
You could do it the
Yeah.
same way, using water and sewer as an example. We do that separately. The water and sewer budget is completely separate from the operations budget, which would support general government and our schools and so forth. So instead of the tax levy, you're relying on the water rates that every customer pays in order to provide you that service. On the water side, you have infrastructure improvement. Right now, we're in the middle of a 10-year plan to spend $45 million on improvements to our water system, including relining of all these water pipes. That's work that would be terribly difficult to do within the operating budget. But since we have the enterprise fund, since we're able to apply that rate structure, use the rate structure in water to help do that work, parallel to that in the stormwater side, we could do that and there are mechanisms for do that. Alan mentioned the impervious surfaces. We do have the consultant has provided us a way to measure the impervious surfaces for all commercial and residential properties in town. And we actually have a way to apply a fee that basically says the more pavement you have, the more impervious surfaces you have, the more you pay. So residents would pay a fee to help fund that capital program, but a large entity that has acres and acres of pavement, large shopping mall, whatever, certainly is going to pay a lot more than the residents do.
Okay.
So that's kind of the basic plan.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, Jack, is that when you look at how we set up taxes with some of these large commercial establishments who have acres and acres of parking, the parking lot itself does not contribute a lot to the tax base. It just is the way it is. However, when you look at it from the perspective of the stormwater fee, it's a large impervious area.
Right.
So if a resident is called an ERU, an equivalent residential unit. So a single family house is one unit. And that's based on a certain impervious surface. If a commercial establishment has 10 times the impervious surface, they pay 10 times the fee as a residence. And the other interesting thing about this is that it covers everybody. It doesn't simply cover businesses and the residents, it also includes other nonprofits. So when everything is said and
That's
done,
interesting. Okay.
when everything is said and done, the taxpayers of Norwood pay a slightly lower, not huge, but a slightly lower percentage of the enterprise fund than they contribute to taxes.
Okay. That makes sense to me, I think.
Sort of makes sense to us.
So, I know this isn't your committee's charge, but can you give a couple examples of what the projects that will happen? Well, let me ask you before you do that. Remember that culvert on Dean Street? Was that part of this at all? Meaning, you said, Bob, you had said earlier that we've done some things along the way.
We've done, over the past 5 years, I'd say, the town has taken advantage of federal grant monies to help support this work.
That was going to be my next quick. You know what? Let's.
Sure.
To
answer your question, yes. The Dean Street work is being, there's some work that's being done on drain improvements, which basically will lead to this summer, a large drain pipe underneath Dean Street will be replaced because it's too small. We need a high capacity one. So that is a project that is included in, that's going to be paid for by ARPA, not by our fee.
Okay.
ARPA is running out.
Yeah,
so we don't have that luxury in the future to say we're going to do this work because we have the federal fund. That's not going to be the case a year down the line.
But is you know what? I'm jumping all over the place. So let me discipline myself and answer the question that you were going to answer with that paper.
So what the paper I have here is, nicely supplied by Mark Ryan, is an outline of from 2022 all the way up to 2034. the schedule of work that would be planned to be done to address the amount of stormwater work that we have, and it's quite heavy. You have a lot of work that's being done in the Meadowbrook watershed area, which is a very large area where I'd say most of the stormwater is generated from the town and it drains into the Meadowbrook and then onto the Neponset. There's a variety of work that needs to be done there to improve the culvert system leading to the Meadowbrook, drainage system through the Hennessy Field area, culverts to move the water appropriately. I think one of the projects that's interesting to me is the way the water moves through the system would be enhanced through some of these projects. Right now, it flows down through the center of town, through right in front of the police and fire station. One of the projects is to manage that water to flow, instead of going down there where we've had problems, bring it down through Broadway down to the drainage area that way. There's projects to improve the drainage through Hennessy Field, to detain the water, so it retain the water in heavy storms so that we can reduce the flooding, and then when the rain dissipates, we can release water slowly into the
So is that the
Meadowbrook.
big one? That's the one
That's
I hear
the big
about.
one.
Okay.
That's the big one.
Hennessy's the big one. I mean, again, looking at it solely from an engineering standpoint, everything flows in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Something has to be done in that area. If something isn't done in that area, then the whole house of cards just falls down.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, you can't. You can replace culverts and piping downtown, make them bigger, but if they're just going to bring water that backs up into the drainage in the Hennessy Field Meadowbrook area, it's not going to help. So they're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
So the ARPA money's running out. Is there any federal or state money to do projects like this?
Well, there's limited. I mean, we'll always look for it, but the reality is there really aren't many large-scale grant or loan programs such as we have for sanitary sewers and some of our water lines. It just isn't considered on a state level or a national level as important as those other kinds of utilities.
We are pursuing some though, so just there are grants out there that we are interested in and are putting applications. We just can't bank on getting approved.
Yeah. No, I get that. But the reason I brought it up is I want people to know that you guys know that there's potential and you're chasing it.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I'm not going to let people,
Think
give
that it's
them
gonna
a
happen.
false hope.
No, but
But,
it's important that they know we're trying to get every dollar we can.
Right.
And a lot of the work to be done in addition to ARPA, a lot of the smaller work that's been done around town has been done with some state funding as well.
Now, the Rotary down by the one that they're going to do at
Prospect.
Prospect, yeah.
That's state, because that's part of the state road still?
Yes.
So can we do any of this as part of that? Any of these projects relate to that?
My understanding is that's a question for Mark Ryan, but my understanding is that yes, that there'll be some new stormwater mitigation being done at that. But we are not the town engineers.
Yeah, no, I get it. I
but,
just didn't know if you know.
Yeah.
All right,
I think anytime that we're seeing new development in town, there are requirements now that whoever is doing that project has to take stormwater mitigation into consideration. Even Alan chairs the building committee for the Coakley, and we had our update recently, and they took us through the visual and the work being done for stormwater mitigation at that site. Those are the things that in modern construction we're doing today. So, but there's still a need from a municipal standpoint to upgrade the infrastructure that currently exists under our streets.
Okay. What do you want the people to know that we haven't talked about?
I think we want them to know, I guess I would look at it this way. When we have had some public meetings, no one likes a fee. We understand that. So folks can say it's a rain tax, it's a stormwater tax, they don't like it. But at the end of the day, just like in our water system, what we're at the $45 million that we're doing now to improve our infrastructure, the $2.8 million we're putting in extra to do our roads, infrastructure needs to be taken care of. If we do nothing, if we just let this work go unattended, we're going to see more flooding in Norwood. We saw major flooding in 2020. We know those kinds of storms are going to increase in the future. The ways and means that we need to attend to mitigate against those is to invest in our infrastructure. and it's hard for people to get their heads around because it's all underground.
Right.
It's not visual, but there's a need to be done, and that there are a group of citizens who are looking at this very, I'm going to say dispassionately, but we are educating ourselves on the needs, and we understand that there are consequences for not making that investment in the infrastructure, and we're doing the best we can to ensure a safe future for Norwood from a stormwater perspective.
Yeah, I think one of the arguments that I constantly hear, Jack, is like, well, you haven't done anything to date, why should we do something now? And all it really does is just continue the problem. I mean, we know there's a problem. Should somebody have done something 20 years ago? Well, hate to use the term, but that's really water over the dam, so to speak, you know. As I said earlier in the show, I mean, I come from a little bit different perspective. I have a technical background also, but I'm also FinCom. You know, I'm reluctant to ask the taxpayers to pay more money. We've asked a lot of them the last few years, and the only reason why I'm in support of something like this is because to me, it's absolutely necessary. It's absolutely necessary to solve the problem today. It's absolutely necessary to solve the problem in the future, and that's to me the bottom line.
Right.
Could I just add one more element to that?
Yeah, whatever you guys want to add.
Yeah.
The other thing that I have heard in conversations with folks is, and I'll take my house for example. I live on Morse Hill. I have a driveway that's inclined into my yard. I have rain barrels. Personally, I can see that I'm not really contributing a lot of runoff onto the street. Why should I pay for this if I'm not part of that? My basement doesn't flood. And I think the answer to that is that this is a community problem that community needs to solve. I may be doing everything I can, or I may be in a location where I don't flood, I don't contribute to the flooding, but when I get out of my driveway, I want to make sure I'm able to get downtown to my doctor's appointment. I want the firemen to be able to, firefighters to get out of the public safety buildings and come to my house if there's an emergency. Those are important things. That's why it's important that the community address this, because it does affect us all.
Yeah, and just because I don't personally have a problem, you know, we have a map, Jack, which has a lot of red dots over the whole town. That shows people who've had problems, you know, with flooding. And these are citizens.
I live at the top of the hill. I'm good.
Yeah, and you know, these are citizens. You know, our friends and our neighbors.
Right.
And I think, you know, as public officials voted by the public in Norwood, we have a responsibility to look out for their interests.
Yeah, I would say we remember 2020 and the flood that occurred there, and the town put together a grant program to help residents who were impacted, because it was more than the hospital. It was a lot of homes that were impacted by that. And so I was one of the volunteers that worked with other folks to go into folks' homes who've been flooded out and see the damage that was done. And there are some pretty sad stories to be told there about people who spent thousands of dollars renovating their basements or had living quarters in their basements, totally ruined. And the insurance would only cover so much. The town helped out with some, but the problem still exists. And it's just, when you see what happened to some of these homes, it has a personal impact that I still take with me to this day, 4 years later.
And was that ARPA money that a lot of that? No.
ARPA money.
For the folks you were just talking about.
No, I don't recall what the exact.
I remember there was a program, but I can't remember.
The grant was not.
Remember it either.
Yeah, it was a grant, but I think it may have been before ARPA. Anyways, it was 2020. I think ARPA came probably during the Biden administration, so it would have been like, well, it could be.
Yeah. It would have been right around then. That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
But I remember it was a grant program. I just couldn't remember the source.
Right.
So, what else?
I guess we talk about some upcoming events, perhaps some information, maybe information that people want to stay tuned about. So I know in late April, right now in terms of the Meadowbrook work, which is a great majority of our work in town, because the Meadowbrook is a gigantic watershed that contributes a lot to stormwater. We have a current project regarding the Hennessy Field design project. The consultant engineers now have been doing some testing, doing some work there just to figure out if we could do it. Is the Hennessy Field, where there is an existing infrastructure now, a drain pipe that drains under the field, is there a way to improve that? We are talking about a detention basin there. If not, what are the alternatives to that? Public meetings coming up in the neighborhood in late April. I think it's April 25th, so that the engineering group and Mr. Ryan can kind of bring forward the detail to date in terms of what the impact would be if this project were to go forward. So that's a big one that's specific there. The Board of Selectmen, we have heard, the committee has come in previously. The committee, our committee has come in and presented information. They've made a specific recommendation for a utility fee. Selectmen have heard that, and now we are interested in having the consultant from CDM Smith come in, who is sort of the expert in how fee structures work, educate us so we can ask questions, look at different ways of doing that, so that we can then proceed to have some consideration in the spring for perhaps developing a specific enterprise fund to help fund that. I think we probably have on the table, and I don't know what the timeline is, but our general committee, we've had a couple of public meetings to talk about the utility fee. We probably could use another one or two in the
Yeah, I
next
mean,
coming weeks.
we've had meetings along with the Neponset River Watershed Association at the library to present information on the fees. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to do it again prior to town meeting, because if things go well, maybe we could set something up and vote some projects at town meeting. But again, people have to believe that there's a problem,
Right.
because you're asking them for money. Unless they believe there's a problem, and rightfully so, they won't vote anything.
So procedurally, this committee made a recommendation to the selectmen. So what happens next?
So the selectmen need to consider whether or not we should establish a fee structure to help either fund operations and maintenance plus capital, or fund just our capital plan. How would we do that? How would the fee work? How would you assess a fee? The selectmen have to agree that that's the way we want to go. Town meeting would then meet in May to say, we want to establish what's called an enterprise fund, a funding mechanism that, similar to what we do for the electric department as well as water and sewer, a fund specifically that fee that's collected goes into that fund that allows the town to borrow the money necessary to do this work. All the project work that's associated with that would still go through the regular processes for all project work. And that would mean, getting vetted by selectmen, the Board of Selectmen, the FinCom, capital outlay, then end up I would think in the coming years, year by year, for discussion at a November time frame when we approve and look at all projects. But the first thing is to set up the best ways of funding
the November
it.
time frame would be town meeting?
Yes, the
Okay.
special town meeting we have in the fall.
And I think the important point, in funding projects with an enterprise fund is the selectmen can't go off on their own and finance projects. Everything still has to be vetted, by the selectmen, by the FinCom, and most importantly, by town meeting. If town meeting says no, the project doesn't go.
And it also is an advantage in that when we have the enterprise fund set up for something like water and sewer, we know that that's what it's for. Money that's
it can't be
collected
used for
can't be
anything
used.
else.
You're not going to use it to
Yeah.
build a sidewalk
I was
over
gonna
here.
make that point.
Same here.
Very, very specific rules and laws that don't allow you to do that.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
just one more thing that's
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
go
a
ahead.
minor, not a minor, you can almost look at this whole work as being almost an unfunded mandate in some ways. I think we're all old enough to remember the river that got on fire years ago, and I think in New York or whatever.
Yeah,
It
there
was
was a
Cleveland.
Yeah.
Cuyahoga River, I
Yes,
believe.
exactly. And so that was probably the early 70s. That kind of pollution into rivers was one of the reasons why the Clean Water Act was
yeah.
passed. That came up with a regulatory. So I think in years before that it was probably a matter of we had stormwater systems to take water off our streets and drain it into the riverbed.
It was really, to put it very simple, it was out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Very,
Yeah.
Just a very simple principle.
Then the city, then the federal government recognized that it's a source of pollution so we are under permit. We as a town have a permit with the Mass DOT and EPA because the water that we have here, stormwater, does drain into the Neponset River. So it's something we haven't talked a lot about, but we are subject to federal fines if in fact our system fails and it's polluting the waters in and around Norwood. So something else to consider. We need to improve our compliance when we fund our programs for stormwater management.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, anything else? I don't want you to leave and say, oh, I wish I had said this.
I'm sure as soon as I leave, we'll be like, why did I say this? But
I think there's a lot of information
Yeah.
on NCM this NCM site to look back at some of the public meetings that we've had previously. I would say just people be open-minded, understand. I think what I want people to understand is our committee. What we're trying to do is solve a funding problem, and we know we're gonna get feedback that whether it's a rain fee or a stormwater fee, tax. All right, you call it what you want, but what we're trying to do is there is funding needed to improve something. We as leaders in the town need to take that seriously, because there are consequences for not doing this work.
Yeah.
And again, this is a principle, an enterprise fund, which isn't something which simply Norwood is doing. This is something other communities in Massachusetts are doing, and I think nationwide it's well over 2,000 communities that are adopting an enterprise fund. This is the way to go. It's simple. It mandates that the money spent goes specifically to stormwater.
And that's a key point.
That is a key. People have always wondered about, where does your money go? Very, very specific requirements that you don't want to get in the other side of that requirement if you can avoid it. So, again, I speak not only as an engineer, but as a member of the FinCom. FinCom will have to weigh in on this too. Again, you hate to ask people to spend money. We've asked a lot of our taxpayers, but this is something which I think is critical to the future in Norwood.
And it's a funding mechanism that's meant to fund all stormwater work in all neighborhoods. We have big problems in the Meadowbrook area, but there are projects on here that are outside the Meadowbrook areas that need to be funded as well. So this is a town-wide issue from a project standpoint.
Well, this was great. I learned a lot today, so hopefully people watching will as well. So I thank you both for being here and
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
giving the folks the needed information on this, because there's a lot of talk out
It's
there.
complex.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob and Al. Right now, we're going to have a blast from the past and our own reporter, Jerry Slater.
I'm back. Well, not really, but I am really excited to be able to be here for this segment, to bring it to Digest, to talk about and to visit this incredible organization right over the border in Walpole called New Life Furniture Bank of Massachusetts. So I am here with Executive Director Rich Purnell.
Yep. Thank you.
Rich, welcome.
Thank you.
Rich, we gave it a little bit of a hype with just the amazing timing of this organization, only 10 years old. But tell me a little bit about New Life.
Sure. So I like to think of it as we take unwanted furniture, whether it be someone downsizing, someone changing out a couch, or just even spring cleaning. We take that unwanted furniture and we're able to give it to people who need it. So people transitioning out of a shelter, people escaping domestic violence, victims of a fire, anybody who really needs furniture. And the reason is because the way we see it is that affordable housing isn't just, it's not really affordable if you don't include the furniture. When we talk about home, we talk about not just the space, but everything in it, and we lump it together. And so when somebody is transitioning out of a shelter into a completely empty space, it's much better than a shelter, but it's not quite home. And so the way I like to see it is we help make people complete, and so that they can move on and focus on the more important things. We also have although it's not on our website, I like to think of as having a secondary mission that we keep a lot of, good stuff out of landfills, and not just keep it out, we reuse it, which is the best form of recycling, it goes straight to somebody who needs it. Everything you see behind us, within 5 days, they'll be in someone's house and they'll be using it. So, you know, as we film this on Friday, by Wednesday, somebody will be enjoying it. So in a nutshell, that's really what we do is we take something that's unwanted and we give it to somebody who needs it. We have high values, and so every item is, we call it gently used, although we do have new, because we do work with furniture stores and other partners that have excess furniture or returns that we're able to offer to our clients too. So we're able to supply it. We're able to treat our clients or families with dignity through the items we give them.
Yeah, I kind of love, you know, as you look around your website, and we'll talk about the website in a little bit so people can go to it, but you talk about no one should have to eat, sleep, or sit on the floor, which kind of tells it all. But also the sidelight of the greenness of this mission too, keeping things out of landfills. Before we talk about some of the amazing stats about the number of households that have been helped and what this all amounts to, how did New Life come about? It's an interesting story. Just 10 years old.
Yeah, so we were kind of born out of some volunteers that were with Habitat for Humanity. It's a great program. They help a lot of individuals, but it kind of goes back to that. You know, they help them get them set up into a home or house, but it's not quite a home yet. And then if you look at it just from a financial standpoint, to fill a house or even just a small apartment with furniture, you're at $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. And for somebody who is, you know, low income, that is a lot of money to spend at one go. And so it was kind of that realization of that issue with the realization that, you know what, if you go to some of the town swaps, it's full of furniture of people trying to, you know, because they're updating. So it's really marrying this need with this other need that we should try to keep stuff out of the landfill. And the desire was to help many more people rather than just you know, again, Habitat is a great program, but it serves small numbers of individuals because of the way the program is set up. And so what we're able to do is to realizing that there's this kind of gap, serve many, many more people. So it's that's how we were born out of all of these kind of issues, as well as the desire to help more people. And then that's how New Life was born. We actually started in a very small room in Medfield, I think 1,000 square feet, and now we've grown to 18,000 square feet. You know, originally it was just a few volunteers doing it, where annually we see 900 people come through our doors to make New Life happen. So it really has been an astonishing, to me, I'm surprised. I've only been with the organization 5 years, but just the exponential growth. And it's always sad to talk about. Like, I get excited about, oh, we're growing, we're doing more, we're doing it better. But the reality is we always have to couple it with the sad reality that demand is people who are suffering. So every time we grow to serve, the need unfortunately grows too. And so it's kind of this happy, sad reality that, you know, we're happy that we're able to serve more, but as we grow and more people find out about us, because, you know, at the end of the day, the issue we serve, people don't go around talking about. Like, if you don't have furniture in your house, you're not gonna tell your friends, or you're gonna be embarrassed. There's a lot of pride in people's homes, and so it's a closed door issue. So the more people know about us, the more demand. And it's not because there's an increase, well, there is an increase in people with need, but there's a realization that there is a way that they can, you know, that they don't have to sleep on the floor. They can eat around the table without, you know, going down the terrible paths of credit card debt or loans, or, you know, renting furniture and all the things that lead them into financial difficulties and that could put them back into homelessness. So it's really great that we are able, and then the fact that we've been around 10 years and every year we're serving more and more in the same amount of space, that we don't really, we are looking to grow again and look for more space. But for the last 3-4 years, we've been just in this space, and we've been able to serve more and more people. And that's through the great volunteers, the systems that the volunteers actually develop themselves. I'd love to take credit for the way New Life looks and works, but it's because it's a collaborative effort that everything it works so well, and that we can, set higher and higher goals.
Well, and you're constantly, you said it, the housing crisis, people trying to get into homes, homelessness, domestic abuse that you talked about, military, I know you serve as well. You have an interesting model on how people who need help come to you.
Yep.
You only referrals through agencies? Can you tell us a little about that?
And to be honest, that's one of my favorite parts of New Life, is because if you're in need, the amount of paperwork is unbelievable. Yeah. By working through agencies, agencies do the vetting. They say, this person needs furniture, this person's in need, and then just saying, and kind of vouching for the person and just saying to us, hey, this person's in need, we're able to serve them. I think our referral form is 3 pages long, and half of the questions are more about the space you're moving into, so that we make sure you get the right furniture you need. And so it's more focused on the service than gathering all the information for funders or for people, or to make sure that people are using the service correctly. Agencies take care of that. And it's not an additional burden to them, it's what they're already doing because they're supporting. So that's why I like it so much. And it is frustrating sometimes when we do see people that have need, but they're not working with an agency. But that being said, our definition of an agency is very loose.
Very loose. Okay.
So we can always make it work for everybody. And I just think that's the model I really like, having worked previously in human services, where there's just tons of paperwork and you have to put the client, and you have to ask very invasive questions. We don't need to do that. We just want to serve, and that's the bottom line.
And that is great. So quicker, it's easier, if you will, for someone in need to get the furniture that they need. And I know the way you do it also, having walked through the facility a little bit, is you literally have staging areas that are apartment areas that are just ready to go. Someone in need comes in, picks out what they want.
So we're actually fully virtual. We moved to it during COVID for obvious reasons.
Yep.
After COVID, we're going to go back in person, we're going to have clients in, but then talking to agencies and talking to clients and even volunteers, everybody realized that this is about model of service, right? If you are low income, you have a job, right? And so coming from, traveling from wherever to come to here, you have to take a half a day off. We have an online store that you can just navigate through on your lunch break, right? There's no need to disrupt your life to come out to us. So we're able to, it fits into our clients' lives easier, as well as, we're able to serve clients that can't go it. We talked about the veterans, potentially have mental health issues that they're working through, and coming out and picking out large amount of furniture in a unfamiliar space can create a lot of anxiety. On an online model, they sit in the office with the agency case manager, and able to pick out and work through it at their leisure. They get an hour to do all of this. It's supported by our side. So again, we have people who have helped hundreds of people, so they know exactly, when someone says 3rd floor apartment building, what type of a couch we should be looking at, so we can jump to those options. So it makes it less demanding process to more of, I hope, an enjoyable process where it's like, oh, I'm going on Amazon, I'm going to pick out all this stuff.
Right, so I'm going to the
And
catalog.
and then
Yeah.
we have great partners that come and pick it up and deliver it to them. And again, that can be scheduled on lunch break, can be scheduled on a weekend, or any time that suits their calendar, rather than what it used to be, where they came out to us and they'd have to take a full day off work. And if you're an hourly worker, sometimes it means you're taking a day of, you don't get paid for that day. So at least this way we can fit it in. We don't have to disrupt their lives. Our big thing is we are part of the process of getting somebody from a homeless shelter to fully stable in a home. And we just, that one little sliver, and that's all we want to be. We don't want to take on any more. We just want it to be a painless process for families that experience very difficult situations.
So making it kind of come alive in the communities that you serve, I know
Yep.
you serve Norwood, and obviously Walpole, Medfield,
Yep.
we talked about. Where else?
So we have two, we always get, when we talk about services, it always gets confused between where do we pick up furniture from and who can access furniture. New Life has no geographic restriction on who can access. So we serve mainly this area because the cost of transporting furniture does get more expensive the further you are away.
Yep.
That being said, we've served as far as Springfield, we've served New Hampshire, Rhode Island. Again, it goes back to that we just want to help. So having geographic restrictions means that we have to turn people away, and that's what we try not to do. In terms of pickup, though, that is a smaller circumference, just because we have the cost of sending a truck and guys to Springfield is not in our budget. So we do serve a variety of towns. I like to think about a 20-mile radius from the warehouse, but it's all listed on our website exactly. And we try to serve a whole town and be like, instead of that arbitrary, oh, you're 20 miles, so usually like you're 21 miles away from us, that we can't serve you. We try to serve the whole town, and that's the kind of our cut-off point.
Yep. And the website is newlifefb.org.
Exactly, yep.
newlifefb.org. We'll say it again before we end. Success stories. Now, I know a recent one
Yep.
for Norwood actually was the folks that were displaced in South Norwood because of the fire.
Yep.
How did that come about?
So I think with that, like, I mean, we are, well, no, Norwood, we've been trying to get awareness out to Norwood, and I'm so grateful that you're able to do this. But we have been servicing Norwood. We go to the town days, and so somebody who knew of us, who worked in an agency, our loose term for an agency, reached out and said, we have this situation, and because it's in our backyard, we were like, we gotta help, and that's how it all kind of lined up. And it was again, I like to think it was all New Life, but it was like everybody in the whole process, the agency involved, the families, New Life, the volunteers, everybody made it happen. And I think that that's a great testament to the community that we have around here.
Yeah, and the large community.
Yep.
So, we're talking about Norwood, but as you said, you're going all over the state, and these situations are happening
Yep.
daily. I know over, I think, 10,000 households that you've helped
Yes.
since inception.
Yep.
Over 700 a year, roughly.
Yeah. Last 3 years we've been over 700. 750 is our goal this year. And it's really sad because although 750 is a big number, and I'm really excited that we are able to help that many, we still get every year over 1,000 people or 1,000 families asking for support. And we try to get there. And New Life is set up with some core values, and a core value is making sure that we're not just servicing numbers, like we're servicing families. So we try to make sure everything they need, we are able to supply, instead of serving many people. We're trying and then everybody kind of being disappointed by the service. We're trying to marry that, or walk the thin line of making sure we hit as many people as possible, but hitting them in a way that has an impact, that they're not left still in need. So.
And that brings me to how people can help.
Yep, great question. So New Life is a volunteer-run, led organization. I am the executive director, but I do the boring stuff. So, the taxes, the making sure we're compliant, but everything else is run by the volunteers and developed by the volunteers. So we have a big need for volunteers. And I think one myth I would love to bust is that, to volunteer with us is lifting heavy furniture. There are so many different roles you can take. You can be in the office, supporting in that way, and you don't even touch furniture. You can do it remotely, so you can do it in your nice warm home in your PJs if you like. There's sorting, so we try to provide everything for a family. So you're talking linens, cutlery, appliances, anything you can think of for a small apartment. And so that needs to be gone through. And again, because we have high standards, we would like to make sure everything works and is up to it. So we have an army of people that come in and just sort through stuff. I like it because I'm a little nosy and I like to open up the box and see what's in there. So we have that. There is the furniture moving. So if you are looking for a different type of workout, furniture moving definitely is that. But it's not terrible because we have so many people that it's not like you on your own lifting 30 pieces of furniture. It's a team, of 5 to 10 individuals. So I would say that, our website lists out all of our opportunities, we call them, so that you can get involved. That being said, if you don't see one for you, there's an email address that you can reach out and say, hey, I really want to get involved, but I'm not sure that what's listed is the right for us, and we'll try and figure something out. There's always need. Again, we're volunteer run and driven. We keep a very small number of staff. So we try to fill the rest. So we try to have volunteers do a little everything and anything, really.
Yeah, and again, the New Life, FB.org.
Yep.
Website, Saturday mornings.
Saturday mornings are a big one. Yep.
Yeah.
If you have kids that need to get their hours, that's a great one to get in. The 3 hours, they come in. It's very organized in the fact that there's team leaders, there's a lot of direction, so they can just come in, do their hours, and then leave without issue. The other thing I forgot to mention is need. We do need furniture. Every year 20,000 pieces of furniture go to families in need.
What are the biggest items that you need?
So we always need dressers. Dressers is definitely one that we don't get enough of because, and I think that's somewhat circumstance that, around here it's more common to have a walk-in closet or at least a closet, right? Whereas if you're moving into a small apartment, there's no closet, so you need a dresser. We need dining room tables, small tables, couches, and it depends on the time of the year. That's probably the most challenging thing about running a furniture bank is sometimes we get a lot of one item and not enough. But that being said, we have such a big warehouse that we just store it until we need it and then it goes out. So I would definitely think if you have dressers or even small appliances that you no longer use, or you're changing out your cutlery, it doesn't have to be with cutlery and stuff and plates, and it doesn't, if you've lost a plate and you only have 3, that's fine, bring it in, because we see so many that we'll see that pattern again somewhere else and we'll make a complete set. So really it's about, I do like to encourage people to look on our website, and we try to get out on social media what we're in high need. But that being said, if you have something that will take, which our list is on our website, and it's very detailed to make sure that there's a lot of guidance for people. But if there's anything on that list and you want to bring it, I'd say bring it in, especially again, we're 20,000 pieces, and the wait for our just to be served by us is now 6 weeks, and it's not because we don't have the capacity to to get the furniture out. It's the fact that we don't have the furniture to give.
To do it. And
Yeah.
you know, I can attest to having dropped things off on a Saturday morning and seeing the excitement of, you know, some of the items coming out of my car
Yeah.
and the volunteer staff. So, Rich, I want to thank you. I've got one more stop before we close this segment, but we'll say it one more time. Check the website. There's always a need. And thank you for everything that you do here.
Thank you for having us.
Well, Jack, they weren't kidding when they were saying this was a volunteer-driven organization. They put me to work right away. So from New Life Furniture Bank in Walpole, I'm Jerry Slater.
Norwood Community Media has its own video on-demand channels. You can go to our website, norwoodcommunitymedia.org, and click on whichever on-demand channel you are looking for, whether it be things to do in the community, events at the schools, or town government meetings. Once you click on one, you are going to be taken to a screen in which you can search for stories or videos you missed on TV or just want to watch again. Just click on the search bar on top of the page and start typing. Once you've found what you're looking for, just click in the middle of the video where the play button is and you are off enjoying one of the 3 on-demand channels NCM has to offer.
Welcome back to Norwood Digest. Joining me now is an old friend, Rob Way. You probably know him from Channel 7 Weekend Anchor News and doing reporting, but Rob got his start right in this studio. So what's it like to be back in the studio where it all began?
Well, it's pretty cool. This is the exact spot we had the desk beforehand. So when I used to do the news when I was in high school, it's pretty awesome to be back and then to see the program still thriving. We talked with one of the classes here, some of the seniors and some of the juniors, just about the experience of being in the class and kind of what brought me to where I am today. And it all started right here.
So you really took advantage in a positive way of the studio and everything. I mean, I think you were a sophomore when you had your own show, the Rob Way Show.
Yeah.
So how'd that get started? What kind of things did you do?
Sure. So one of the things that I really wanted to do once I kind of fell in love with the storytelling aspect of everything was start my own show and do some interviews because I love sitting down with people and having a conversation, as do you. And one of the things I thought of was let's start my own show and we'll have our own platform to kind of do whatever we want. I reached out to everyone. I mean, I got so many no's or ignored messages, but then there were so many people that did say yes, and we ended up having great conversations. One of the most memorable was Maggie Bish, which I know a lot of people in this area probably are familiar with the Molly Bish story and the missing. So we went out with her missing daughter. So we went out to Western Massachusetts, interviewed her. We won an award for that interview.
That was a national award, no?
Yes, yeah, it was with the Public Access Awards. So it just showed me that we were doing the right thing, that we were on the right track. And then I just kind of fell in love with storytelling more and more. And it all started right here and let me build my skills. So I was ready to go to college and take it to the next level.
So what was the most surprising yes you got for when you reached out to everybody?
Yeah, well, the president said no. Gotta try. But one of the yeses was one of the members of the Little Rock Nine. So the first 9 black students that were integrated into an all-white high school in the South, in Little Rock, Arkansas. And one of the members was actually coming up here to speak to a school, I think a few towns over. So I reached out to him and asked, would you come on over into our studio here and sit down with me to have a conversation? And I think we wound up having a 45-minute conversation. We then played, I don't know if you remember the app, Words with Friends, the Scrabble app. So we played with that. I emailed him just a few weeks ago. We were still catching up and still staying in touch.
Wow, that's nice.
So it created this great friendship as well. But it was such a fascinating story to tell and one that we obviously hadn't told in quite some time.
So after Norwood High, you went to Emerson, and what kind of stuff did you do there?
Yeah, at Emerson College gives you just that hands-on experience. You're right in the heart of the city at the Boston Common. So one of the big things we did was go cover the Donald Trump when he was first inaugurated president back in 2017. We went down, we did live shots, we were working around the clock, turning different stories. So that was just one of the very first hands-on experiences I had. And then we even had situations where we're in class and there's a shooting in the Boston Common. It doesn't happen often, but my teacher said, go, grab a camera and go and report. So it gave you that hands-on experience to cover the breaking news aspect and also the big stories. So the program there really allowed us to explore all our skills in so many different ways.
I meant to ask you this off air, but I'm thinking of it now and I'll forget.
Okay.
Did you ever have Mark Lachese?
Yes.
Did you?
Yes.
He's a
He
friend
was
of
one of my
mine.
professors.
Yeah. He's
Oh my
a good
gosh.
friend of mine.
Oh,
Great
wow.
guy. Probably a great professor, I bet.
Oh, he was the best.
Yeah.
He was the best. That's awesome. He recently retired, I think.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah. We can keep going, yeah.
So you're graduating from Emerson. Did you get a job right away?
Yes.
That's pretty good.
Yes, I was very lucky. I was really lucky. So I was applying to different jobs in that final couple months at school, and I got a job offer up in Burlington, Vermont, and down in Charleston, South Carolina. And I was just weighing the different options. And I had always grown up in the Northeast. I love the Northeast. So I thought maybe it's time to go branch off and try something new down in the South. And it was an amazing experience. I was there for about 3.5 years.
And you were the host of the morning show, or do I have that right?
Thank you. We could say that. No, I was not. I was a reporter at first, and then I made my way inside, and I was one of the main fill-in anchors for the morning show, as well as I did the breaking news desk in the morning. So I reported all the different breaking news.
And how'd you get back here?
So my contract was coming up down in Charleston, so I started applying to different jobs, and I knew I wanted to come home. This is home. So I knew I wanted to be closer to family. And so I started applying to different Boston stations, and I wasn't really applying anywhere else. I was putting all my eggs in one basket, and I got the call back from Channel 7, and the rest was kind of history. I got the reporting job, and then I've been able to grow while there too.
And now you've just, well, not just, but recently,
Yeah.
you're now the, weekend evening anchor?
Yes, the weekend evening anchor, and then on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, I'm out in the field reporting or filling in for some of our weekday anchors. It's a pretty amazing experience. It's one I've really loved. And the great balance of doing the anchoring and the reporting is I still get both.
Yeah,
I get a
good
taste
point.
of both. So it's a lot of fun.
What's the most exciting story you've ever done?
The most exciting story,
Or your favorite, either way. Because the favorite might not be as
one of the craziest things I've done on the clock, if you will, was we went down to cover one of the bowl games for football, college football, down in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we went to the Charlotte Motor Speedway where all the players were going. And it was NASCAR drivers driving all the football players around. And they asked us in the media if we wanted to have a ride. And I said, of course. So you hop in the car and you take off from the pit stop, which is about halfway. So you hit that first bend and you think, oh, this is easy. And then he goes. And I think we went 175 miles per hour. And you make the next bend and you're just inches. I was looking out, there's no like window or anything, but I was looking out the window and I was like inches from the side of the wall.
Oh yeah,
I was like,
I'd be freaking out.
yeah.
I'd have my own brake going.
Yeah, I know. I was clutching. But it was certainly a very cool experience. So that's certainly, in terms of excitement, I think one of the most exciting things I've done on the job. We've also covered a lot of very challenging stories too, which can always be difficult.
Yeah, well, so give us an example of that.
The most recent is the most challenging I've ever covered, and that was the Lewiston mass shooting.
Yeah.
It really rocks you as a reporter because you have to stay focused and stay with the facts and get people the information they need. So one of the things was that night when it happened, I was working on a totally different story, obviously, and they sent us up, and I was awake all night long and then started going live in the morning. For our morning show, I did live shots for CNN, and I did live shots for our sister station down in Miami through the whole morning.
Wow.
Then I reported all afternoon and all night. I didn't sleep for
What's
hours on
it
end.
like? I mean, it must be like not even the physical, the emotional draining.
Yeah, it really is. And in talking with a community that's in such fear, because they were still at that time looking for the shooter, the suspected shooter. So it was one of the most challenging stories I've ever done, but I knew that is like how important our role is in telling the stories of this community to the whole world. So I knew how important my role was there, so that kind of faded everything else out.
Yeah, then you can get tunnel vision. And,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's totally different, but it reminded me when I was practicing law, when you're in a trial, you get tunnel focus and just,
Yep.
like a bomb could go off and you wouldn't even know it because you're focused on the jury.
You're
and,
so focused, exactly.
So we did have a chance to talk to a class next door, and the bell rang, so I didn't get a chance to ask you this, but I'm sure they're going to watch this. So what message would you give to somebody, in high school doing a TV program, just starting out?
Yeah, one of the big messages I would give is take advantage of every opportunity in front of you and then run with it. They are so lucky, and you are so lucky if you're watching this, to be partnered with a public access station like NCM, where you can go in there and say, hey, I have this idea. I want to start my own show. And they have the ability to help you, not only give you the opportunity to do it, but help you do it.
Right.
And in molding your own storytelling. So if you really have a passion, take it and run with it, because we need great storytellers. We need more people out there telling stories of the communities that matter to them and that impact them. So definitely, that's my biggest advice. Take these opportunities and learn everything you can. I learned everything. I learned from in the control room, where I wasn't very good at, to camera, to how to interview, to anchoring. It all started right here. So it's starting to build those skills and then hone them.
Now, did you get to do any editing nowadays, or do you have editors for that?
I don't edit anymore.
Yeah.
And I wasn't very good at it, so it's probably for the best, Jack. But back when I was in Charleston, South Carolina, I was doing editing as well as shooting and everything. Yeah. So now I have a photographer who I go out with who is very good at those skills.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
WHDH-TV, it's still
yes,
HDH,
Channel
right?
7.
Channel 7. You'll see him on the weekends at evening, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you never know when he's going to pop up anywhere. So Rob Way, who personally, I've known him for a long time. He graduated with my youngest daughter from this school. So good to see you. So good to see that you're still having great success.
Well, thank you. Great to see you too.
All right. Well, that wraps up another edition of Norwood Digest. We thank our great guests. We thank the wonderful crew here at NCM, but mostly we thank you at home for allowing us into your living rooms. Good day and keep safe.